Hey Reddit, throwaway account for obvious reasons. Also, sorry for the length, a ton on my mind right now. I, 52-year-old man, and my wife, 50-year-old woman, have been married for 25 years and are immensely happy. We, of course, have the normal fights, me not cleaning the bathroom, arguing about me losing money on sports betting, her spending twice as much at the shops as we agreed to, etc. But overall, have a really happy marriage. Until about 8 p.m. yesterday night. Recently, we've been having a bit of trouble in the bedroom. I don't want to derail the post, but basically intimacy has naturally slowed down between the two of us in the last couple of years. This has really bothered my wife, and bothered me a bit also, I will admit. Once we vocalized the problem, we both agreed we're going to take steps to fix some things. We talked to some doctors. Basically, all of them wanted to put my wife on some serious medications, which my wife was pretty against. This led to about a year of building what we call our intimacy drawer, filled with products in the kitchen that my wife has tried and tested and likes the ingredients of. It's nothing crazy. Literally things like vitamin D, zinc, some Lubricil soft gels, maca, stuff that has been tried and tested, nothing too wild and all over the counter. Now here's where things start to go downhill. So my wife naturally takes these products around the times we're going to be getting intimate or try. Now, I don't like to monitor the kitchen drawer, but sometimes I do peek, I know, but I can't help it. About 3-ish weeks ago, I noticed a ton of pills and soft gels were disappearing. Me, thinking I'm about to have a pretty good week, I start to get mentally prepared for it. So about a week after that, I recheck the drawer, and a ton more of the stuff has been taken. I remember thinking, that's weird. We haven't done anything recently. About a week later, the same thing happened. Tons of pills and soft gels are gone. And I'm not going to lie, I get in my head a bit. Last night, my wife and I are out to dinner. After a couple glasses of wine, I ask my wife why she's been taking so much of the stuff in the intimacy drawer without trying for any intimacy. I asked coming from an angle of both worry, mostly for health, and confusion. Immediately, my wife gets insanely defensive, dismisses the conversation, and tells me she isn't talking about it. This, of course, makes it where now it's the only thing I want to talk about. And while I respect everyone's "I don't want to talk about this," I think something like this should probably be discussed. I press a bit, and for about an hour, she's not having this convo. Basically, it gets to the point where I just blatantly ask my wife if she's seeing other people. My wife, who has never been aggressive or loud, starts basically screaming at me in this Italian restaurant. She tells me my daughter, 25-year-old woman, has been having some relationship issues with her boyfriend, and has been taking some of the stuff to help. I'm like, why the heck didn't you just tell me? She goes on a rant about how some things are girl to girl and how my daughter didn't want her telling anyone, which I get, but come on, I buy the things to fill the drawer. My wife ends up leaving the restaurant mid-dinner. I've honestly never seen my wife this mad. I'm honestly a bit worried for our marriage, and to top it off, my daughter is acting awkward around me. I get that I stepped out of line with the questioning, but the defensiveness really caught me off guard, and I would have assumed my daughter using our stuff would have been discussed, and I wouldn't have actually cared, and would have bought more stuff. Anytime I try to talk to my wife, she makes it seem like I'm an insane, out-of-control monster, that I've broken the trust in our marriage, and that I've ruined 25 years of progress we've made together. Reddit, am I crazy? I'm beyond confused right now. Edit, 4 hours since I posted. Wow, a lot of incredible information in here. Thank you to everyone for your comments. This post has made me feel better and has allowed me to think about other aspects of our marriage. I've seen a ton of requests for info, so let me try to answer some of the questions here. My wife and I didn't go to the doctor for only libido issues. I don't know the general age of Reddit, but as you get older, things like menopause and other hormonal issues became a reality, just the way of life. I didn't plan on questioning my wife at the dinner. It had been in the back of my head, and after a few glasses of wine, I handled the situation poorly, which I 100% agree with all of you. Not the right time or place. Though we've had tough conversations before in public, still doesn't justify it. Calling it a sex drawer may have been a bad name, but it's just how we reference it. We didn't really think too deeply when coming up with the name. And I don't actually know which one of us created it. I don't have a good reason why it's in the kitchen. But we're kind of past the age of caring about what someone may or may not see in our home. I wasn't monitoring the intimacy drawer. The Lubrisil soft gels, which we keep out of the box, come only in a 30-pill supply. Half the pack or so missing, I didn't count, is very obvious even at a quick glance. And for why I didn't automatically assume my daughter, the soft gels mentioned above and some of the other stuff in there are for a specific thing, outside of the vitamins. While I don't know the ingredients too intimately, you wouldn't really expect those things to be shared. And finally, for those mentioning that my wife is still actually hiding something, I appreciate your comments, and it has given me a lot to think about. While I won't jump to those type of conclusions, I do agree that there is probably more that needs to be discussed between me, my wife, and my daughter. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Either your marriage isn't as happy as you described, you're leaving things out about your questioning, or your wife is going through something. I can't imagine a woman who rarely yells making a huge scene in a public space when calmly questioned about missing vitamins. But I can't tell if it's you or her that isn't telling the truth. Comment 2. Something's up. That reaction is way disproportionate for a perfectly reasonable line of questioning when met with obstruction and obfuscation. Now, for the update. Hey Reddit, it's been a couple of weeks since my last post, and a lot has happened. Thanks for taking the time to read this update. After the incident at the Italian restaurant, things between my wife and I were tense. She barely spoke to me for a few days, and when she did, it was only to discuss necessary household matters. I tried to apologize for my behavior and explain that I was just worried and confused, but she remained distant. Meanwhile, my daughter continued to act awkwardly around me. I couldn't help but feel like there was more to the story than what my wife had told me. I decided to give them both some space and focus on my work, hoping that time would help heal the wounds. About a week later, I came home from work early and found my wife and daughter in the living room. Deep in conversation, they both fell silent as soon as I walked in, and my daughter quickly excused herself. My wife looked at me with a mixture of sadness and frustration, and I knew we needed to talk. We sat down, and she finally opened up. She told me that our daughter had been struggling with her relationship for months, and that she had confided in my wife about some intimate issues. My wife had been trying to help her, offering advice and even sharing some of the products from our sex drawer. She apologized for not telling me sooner, but explained that our daughter had made her promise not to say anything. I was shocked and hurt that they had both kept this from me, but I tried to understand. I asked my wife why she had reacted so strongly at the restaurant, and she admitted that she was afraid I would judge our daughter or think less of her. She also confessed that she had been feeling guilty about keeping secrets from me, and that my questioning had hit a nerve. We talked for hours, and while we managed to clear the air, I couldn't shake the feeling that something still wasn't right. Over the next few days, I noticed that my daughter was spending more and more time at our house, often staying overnight. When I asked my wife about it, she just said that our daughter needed some space from her boyfriend. Then, one evening, I overheard a conversation between my wife and daughter that made my heart sink. My daughter was crying, saying that she didn't know what to do, and my wife was comforting her, telling her that everything would be okay. I couldn't make out all the details, but I heard my wife say something about a procedure and taking care of it. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. I confronted my wife, and she broke down in tears. She told me that our daughter was pregnant and that she had been helping her explore her options. They had decided to keep it a secret from me, knowing that I had always been against baby unaliving. I was devastated. I felt betrayed by both my wife and daughter, and I didn't know how to process the news. I couldn't believe that they had been dealing with something so serious without involving me. I was also deeply conflicted about the idea of my daughter having a baby unaliving, even though I knew it was her choice to make. The next few days were a blur of difficult conversations and emotional turmoil. My daughter ultimately decided to go through with the procedure, and my wife accompanied her to the clinic. I was left at home feeling helpless and alone. When they returned, I could barely look at them. I was angry, hurt, and confused. I questioned everything I thought I knew about my marriage and my family. How could they have kept something so significant from me? How could I ever trust them again? We're still working through the fallout of this experience, and it hasn't been easy. My relationship with my wife feels strained, and I worry that we may never fully recover. My daughter has been distant, and I know it will take time for us to rebuild our bond. Looking back, I realized that there were signs I missed along the way. My wife and I had been drifting apart long before this incident, and we had both been guilty of keeping secrets from each other. I also recognized that my own beliefs and biases may have contributed to the situation, making it harder for my daughter to come to me with her problems. I don't know what the future holds for our family, but I'm trying to take things one day at a time. I'm learning to communicate more openly with my wife and daughter, and to listen without judgment. It's a difficult journey, but I'm hopeful that with time and effort, we can find our way back to each other. Thanks for reading Reddit. It helps to share my story, even if it's with a bunch of strangers on the internet. My fiancé's mother kept meddling in our wedding plans for 3 years, so I canceled the engagement and told him to cry to mommy instead. I'm not going to try and swing this in my favor here by leaving out details or sugarcoating anything. I was mean about it. He was crying. I've been with my fiancé for 7 years, and we have been engaged for 3 years. We have gone ahead and tried to do a save the date 4 times now, and every single time his mom convinces him to postpone. It's always a, well, don't you think you have bigger things to worry about? Whether it be our living situation, we are renting and she thinks we should buy first because we aren't stable, or our money situation. This was her excuse after we loaned her $8,000 so she didn't lose her house, but we have plenty of money. As my husband's an RN and I'm a lawyer, it's just always something. We planned for a family gathering in my mom's backyard. She has 3 acres and a beautiful pond, and it's just perfect. And we are doing a potluck, so a very low-cost wedding. Plus, everyone we know lives within an hour of the location, so only giving a month or 2 notice is perfectly acceptable in our case. With all this said, his mom has 0 reason to try and sway us against it. But her newest argument is that we need to wait until our daughter is at least 3, so she can be our flower girl. She's 7 months old. Well, in December, my husband and I talked, and we decided we wanted to get married in August. I told him, don't let your mom dictate it, and he said he wouldn't and that he was tired of listening to her. Fair enough. But last weekend, my mother and his mother both came for dinner, and I was talking to my mom about what dress I wanted her to wear as the matron of honor. My husband's mom asked when we planned to tell her we had decided on a date, and my husband said, when we told everyone else. She just said, oh, and got quiet and took leave maybe 20 minutes later. He had already made plans to go over to her house after dinner to help her with her cable box, so he left shortly after that to head over to her place while I drank some wine with my mom. When he got back, he was super quiet, but said he was just tired and went to bed. But last night he said at random, my mom kind of has a point, maybe we should wait until we buy a house so our living situation is a bit more stable. She's not wrong in saying that it should be something we are worried about. I just went silent and didn't comment because I was pissed off, but he kept making comments like, it'll only be a couple of years, 5 at most. I just took my ring off and handed it to him and said I was no longer interested. He immediately started protesting and trying to put the ring back on my finger, and I wouldn't let him. I said I was no longer interested in marrying him, and maybe he should move back home with mommy because I know for a fact that that woman will make up another excuse the second we buy a house. And I'm really just so turned off at the thought of marrying him at this point because I have 0 business being with a man who has no backbone and would put our lives on hold in favor of a woman who still wants to scrub his back in the shower. As I said, I was mean about it. But to clear it up now, no, she has not said she wants to scrub his back in the shower. But she often talks about how she had to help him shower for months when he was 16 because he broke his leg. And as the story goes, he told her he didn't want help and she forced it because she's freaking weird. And it's even weirder that she still talks about it like it was a fond memory to see her 16-year-old naked. He's crying at this point and I'm stupid calm, maybe because I'm over it, and told him I wanted him to leave. Or I could leave. But those were the only options. He ended up leaving, sobbing the entire time. I do feel bad. I feel gutted. He means everything to me, but I can't do this anymore. Am I the idiot? His mom has been blowing up my phone with texts trying to plead her case, and I just texted back and said, no, it's fine, you won. Now you can have your baby boy back full time, and blocked her number. My friends think I'm wildly overreacting. ETA. Sorry for the confusion, I call him my husband by habit, and have since before we got engaged. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. People think that when a relationship really ends, it's this huge production, but in reality, it's quieter, just like what happened here. I don't know who would honestly tell you you've overreacted because you finally got fed up with his mom, literally dictating how two adults with careers and a child will live their lives. I don't know how you didn't leave sooner. Comment 2, not the idiot. He's a mommy's boy. He should stay with mommy. If he can't separate his marriage from his mother, he doesn't need to be married. She sounds like one of those gross boy moms who take it way too far. Hope she's happy that she's ruined it for him now. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments and support on my last post. It's been a week since everything went down, and I've got some updates for you. After my fiancé left that night, I didn't hear from him for a couple of days. I was still pretty upset, but I started to wonder if maybe I had been too harsh. I mean, I love him, and we've been through so much together. But then I remembered all the times his mom had interfered in our relationship, and I knew I had to stand my ground. A few days later, he showed up at my door, looking like he hadn't slept in days. He told me he'd been staying with his mom, but he couldn't take it anymore. He said he realized how much he'd been letting her control his life, and he was ready to make a change. He apologized for not standing up to her sooner and for putting our relationship on hold for so long. I was still hesitant, but I could see the sincerity in his eyes. We talked for hours, and he told me some things about his childhood that I never knew before. Apparently, his mom had always been really controlling, even when he was a kid. She would make all his decisions for him, from what clothes he wore to who he could be friends with. He never really learned how to stand up for himself, because she always made him feel like he couldn't do anything without her. It was a lot to take in, but it helped me understand where he was coming from. I realized that he wasn't just being a pushover, but that he had some deep-seated issues with his mom that he needed to work through. We decided to take things slow and see a couples therapist to work on our communication and boundaries. It's been a tough week, but I feel like we're making progress. He started setting some boundaries with his mom, like telling her that she can't just show up at our house unannounced anymore. But it hasn't been easy. His mom has been calling and texting him nonstop, trying to guilt-trip him into coming back home. She even showed up at his work one day, causing a scene in front of his coworkers. It's been really stressful for both of us, but we're trying to stay strong and support each other. In the midst of all this, we also found out that his mom has been spreading rumors about me to his family and friends. She's been telling everyone that I'm controlling and manipulative, and that I'm trying to tear their family apart. It's been really hurtful, but we're trying not to let it get to us. We've also been talking more about our future and what we want for our family. We both agree that we want to get married and buy a house someday, but we're not going to let his mom dictate the timeline anymore. We're going to do things on our own terms, when we're both ready. It's been a tough week, but I feel like we're making progress. I know we still have a lot of work to do, but I'm hopeful that we can get through this together. Thanks again for all your support and advice. It means a lot to know that I'm not alone in this. My boyfriend gave his side chick permission to sleep with me, and when I found out, I made sure he lost both of us and watched his cheating empire crumble. My boyfriend Ryan, 25-year-old male, and I, 24-year-old female, have been dating for a bit under 2 years. Recently, we have been getting more experimental in the bedroom. I pitched the idea of a threesome with another woman. I am bisexual, and he suggested his friend Jessie, 25-year-old female, who is also bisexual. I had met Jessie quite a few times as she is very good friends with Ryan, and they have known each other for a long time. He was upfront with me when we met that they dated for a few weeks around 7 years ago. Before amicably splitting due to lifestyle differences, Jessie is a party girl, anti-religious, and does not want children. Ryan said there were too many differences between them, and they have not messed around since but remained friends. Jessie and I have hung out a few times, just the two of us, and I consider her my friend now too. One day when she was over, Ryan pitched the idea to Jessie. Jessie seemed a bit shocked but agreed. We got down to business and it was nice. I thought we all had fun. We have done it a few times, and I thought everyone is on the same page and it's not weird. Well, now it is. The other day, Jessie stayed over and slept in our bed with us. Ryan went to work early, and it was just Jessie and I. I woke up to her trying to initiate intimacy with me, politely. While I was interested, I declined, saying Ryan wasn't here and he wouldn't be okay with just us messing around. She then showed me she had texted Ryan earlier, specifically asking permission to sleep with me without him. He responded, "That's fine, as long as I get a free pass too." I thought for a second and came to the conclusion that the idea of him and Jesse together didn't upset me, as I trusted both of them. So I was okay with him sleeping with her as long as he told me about it. We really should have talked about the details more because this is where it all went wrong. Jesse and I did sleep together without Ryan. It was fine and all, but when he got home later, Jesse asked him when he wanted his free pass. He said, "Not sure yet, gotta try to talk to this girl at work I want to use it on." Both Jesse and I were confused as we thought he meant a free pass with Jesse, but apparently he meant a free pass with anyone, which I was not okay with. I knew and trusted Jesse, which is why I agreed to it. I told him this, and he said it wasn't fair that I can sleep with whoever, but he can't. I told him it's not whoever. It's this one person we both trust. Jesse then left us to resolve the argument. Ryan said the threesomes with Jesse are mostly for me, as he isn't all that attracted to her. So he wants someone different. I kind of feel like I got trapped, so I told him no. Now he's not speaking to me, and I can't tell if I'm the jerk. I mean, I did sleep with his friend. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Homeboy has 2 girls already and he wants a third? Remind him of the story of Icarus. Comment 2. Jesus, this sounds all convoluted and complicated. Now for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a tense few days since my last post. Thanks for all the support and advice. After our argument, Ryan and I didn't speak much for the rest of the day. The tension was thick and we both needed some space to cool off. The next morning, I woke up to find Ryan already gone. He had left a note saying he was going to stay with a friend for a bit to clear his head. My heart sank. I knew we needed to talk, but I didn't want to push him. Later that day, Jessie came over to check on me. She felt terrible about the whole situation and wanted to make sure I was okay. As we talked, she revealed something that caught me off guard. Apparently, back when she and Ryan dated, he had cheated on her with a girl from work. It was the real reason they broke up, not just lifestyle differences. Jessie had forgiven him and kept it a secret all these years to protect their friendship. This new information hit me like a ton of bricks. Suddenly, Ryan's insistence on a free pass with someone from work made a lot more sense. He had a history of this behavior. I felt betrayed and confused. Why hadn't he told me about this before? Did he not trust me enough to be honest? I tried to distract myself by diving into work, but my mind kept wandering back to Ryan and our relationship. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story than I knew. That evening, I decided to reach out to Ryan's best friend, Alex, hoping he might have some insight. Alex hesitated at first, but eventually opened up. He told me that Ryan had confided in him about our threesome arrangement. Ryan had apparently been feeling insecure and worried that I might leave him for Jessie. He thought that by pushing for a free pass of his own, he could level the playing field and protect himself from getting hurt. My heart broke for Ryan. I had no idea he was carrying around these fears and insecurities. I realized that our communication had broken down somewhere along the way. We had been so focused on exploring new things in the bedroom that we forgot to check in with each other emotionally. The next day, Ryan finally came home. We sat down and had a long, honest conversation. I told him what I had learned from Jessie and Alex, and he broke down in tears. He apologized for not being upfront about his past and for letting his insecurities get the best of him. I apologized for not creating a safe space for him to express his feelings and for making assumptions about his intentions. We both agreed that we needed to slow things down and focus on rebuilding trust and communication in our relationship. We decided to put the threesomes on hold indefinitely and instead prioritize spending quality time together, just the two of us. It's been a few days since then, and things are starting to feel more stable. We're taking things one day at a time, but I'm hopeful that we'll come out of this stronger than ever. I'm grateful for the lessons we've learned and for the opportunity to grow together. Thanks again for all the support and advice. It means the world to me. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.